Let's get it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back, Draft Yoda, where we're data-driven and prospect focused. Today, we're breaking down a Florida wide receiver, Eric Singleton Jr. Singleton currently holding an 8.94 out of 10, making him my number 54 overall prospect, wide receiver 4, going into this college football season. And this one is an interesting wide receiver evaluation because the traits are so obvious. Speed. I mean, absolutely real speed. Track speed. Defenses have to change their coverage speed. This receiver who can threaten vertically, stress safeties, create manufactured touch value, force defensive coordinators to respect the deep ball, even when the offense is not consistently throwing it. But that is also the frustrating part of this evaluation, because through multiple stops, multiple offenses, and multiple seasons of production, it still feels like we're waiting for the true breakout. At Georgia Tech, he flashed immediately. Auburn, 58 passes. But the usage was just too shallow. And now he's in Florida. And the question becomes simple. Is this finally the offense that turns Eric Singleton Jr. into the downfield weapon his speed says he should be? Let's get into it. Eric Singleton Jr. Went to Alexander High School. Unheralded 3-star, Production was there. First 1,000-yard receiver in school history. And the athletic profile was obvious, too. Had a track background, qualified for state meet, multiple events. Ran a 10.68, 100 meter. That's speed. He's not just football fast. It's a compliment, because we don't have a number. It's the 10.68 is a verified speed. And when you watch Singleton play, the track background is not just a side note, it's part of the entire evaluation. His game is built on speed, vertical stress, acceleration, defensive respect, and the ability to make space appear, because defenses are terrified of letting him run by them. Singleton started his career at Georgia Tech, and he made impact immediately. As a freshman, became the first player in Georgia Tech history to record a touchdown catch in his first 5 collegiate games. That is a absolutely ridiculous start. It's the kind of start that makes you pause. 5 straight games to start your college career with touchdown catches. And it tells you Georgia Tech knew what they had early, and that it was different. He earned freshman All-American honors with multiple outlets, and right away he became one of the most exciting young receivers in college football. Freshman year kind of gives you a blueprint. Get the ball to Singleton, let the speed show, let him attack defenses, let him stretch coverage. The problem is, after that early explosion, the full superstar breakout never completely arrived. Flashes were always there. Production has always been solid. But he's never fully become the dominant athlete, that his profile suggests is possible. As a sophomore, he remained at Georgia Tech, put up another 700-plus yards, but the touchdown total did dip to only 3 scores. Across 2 seasons in Atlanta, he had 104 catches, 1,468 yards, and 9 touchdowns. That's solid production, especially for a Georgia Tech team that's not known for a throwing team. To have that kind of production is very, very solid. When a player has this kind of vertical ability, you want to see the explosive plays pile up. You want to see defenses consistently losing him downfield. You want to see touchdowns. You want to see game-changing moments. And while there's been plenty of flashes, the profile still felt like it had another level waiting to be unlocked. And then he transferred from Georgia Tech to Auburn. And on paper, the move made a ton of sense. He joined forces with Cam Coleman. Gave Auburn one of the most dangerous receiving duos in college football on paper. And And to his credit, he continued to produce. 2025, caught 58 passes. That's decent. That's some decent volume. It's not a player disappearing. It's not a receiver who cannot get open. It's a player who the offense continued to feed. The problem was he averaged only 9.2 yards a catch. And for a receiver with Eric Singleton's speed, that number is way too low. What it tells you is they used him in a buttload of screens. Quick game, manufactured touches, short touches, outlet targets, and that's valuable, but it wastes the trait that makes him so special. If defensive fear your speed, you can make them play downfield. Auburn just wasted it at the line of scrimmage. The Vanderbilt game showed what it could look like. 11 catches, 102 yards, a touchdown. It was a ceiling game for him. It's a game where Singleton looked like the focal point instead of just an outlet. And that's the version I want to see more often in Florida. Because when Singleton is treated like a feature receiver, not just a gadget player, the profile becomes much more exciting. He can win underneath. He can catch screens. He can be used in motion, but the offense has to be built. They have to build in the vertical element too. I don't know if it was Auburn unable to push the ball with the quarterback they had. I don't know what it was. But to not allow him to be the downfield threat he is just doesn't feel right. Singleton's moved to Florida, and it might be the most important move of his entire career, because this is the third program. Georgia Tech, Auburn, now Florida. At some point, the excuse has to turn into answers. This move has to have a real explanation behind it. And for me, that's him reuniting with the coordinator who recruited him to Georgia Tech. That matters. It's not a random transfer for another opportunity. It's a familiarity. It's a belief, and I have to believe that this connection will help him show more of his downfield threat. What makes him truly special, the reason he's wide receiver 4, is his elite speed. Singleton has the kind of speed that changes coverages. Defenses have to honor him with safety help. Corners can't stay flat-footed. Safeties can't be late. Defensive coordinators have to know where he is before the snap. That's a value even when he's not catching the football, because it changes the math on the defense. And the vertical gravity is real. If Singleton forces the safety to stay deep, that creates space underneath. If he widens the corner out, that creates room in the run game. If the defense is scared of the deep ball, the entire field opens up more. And that's why speed matters. And that's why speed matters. His acceleration is another piece of the puzzle for him, because he doesn't need a lot of runway. He can get to top speed very quickly. And that makes him dangerous on vertical routes, slot fades, overs, crosses, and motion concepts. When a receiver has this kind of acceleration, defensive backs have to respect every release. If they hesitate, he is gone. If they take a bad angle, he's gone. If the safety is late, it's a touchdown. And that's the kind of stress Singleton brings to a defense. And it's the kind of stuff he brings to an offense. And thankfully, for a speedster, he is durable. He's played 3 seasons. He's answered the bell every year, and that matters. Sometimes when, they're lighter, smaller, they're less durable. Singleton has proven his availability over 3 seasons. And it's not from a lack of volume either. He's had the volume. He's also, surprisingly, a relatively good blocker for a 180-pound wide receiver. Small speed receivers sometimes want nothing to do with blocking. Singleton puts in the effort, and it stands out. He's not going to bully defensive backs every snap. That's not his game. But he's willing to put his body in between a defender and a runner, and that matters because in the NFL, you have to. You know, I don't need you to. I don't need you to be the greatest blocker of all time as a wide receiver, but you have to be willing to block. It's as simple as that. Now, first thing I've said in every single video, nobody's perfect. Nobody will ever be perfect. First thing that jumps off is per catch production. I need that to improve. 9.2 yards per catch is way too low for a receiver with this kind of speed. It's the headline concern. If a receiver runs like Singleton, the offense should not be getting slot check down production from him. The numbers tell us he was being used too close to the line of scrimmage when he was at Auburn. But that raises a question. Why was the deep ball connection not consistently materialized? Was it scheme? Was it quarterback? Was it route detail? Was it tracking? Was it physicality? Was it timing? And that's something he has to answer at Florida. He also needs to show a little bit more on the deep ball production. Speed profile says that it should be a strength for him, but the deep ball connection rarely fully arrived, and that's a problem because speed only matters in an offense that can turn it into explosive plays. If Tyreek Hill is a perfect example. Tyreek Hill with the Kansas City Chiefs, deadly, scary, killing people every week. Tyreek Hill with the Miami Dolphins, yeah, you're fast, but so what? Simple as that. You got to turn it into something scary. Third thing that concerns me is there's never been a true breakout season. 2 programs, 3 offenses, plenty of production, but not a dominant year yet. And it's a skeptic's case. At some point, a top receiver prospect has to take over. If you're wide receiver 4, you have to have a dominant season. You not just contribute, not just flash, not just be dangerous in theory. You have to take over. Become a weekly problem. Become the guy defenses have to change the game plan for. And Singleton has the tools to do it. He's shown flashes of it. But now at Florida, he has to prove it. Has to. He has to show a little bit more of his route development. Screen heavy usage capped his route development at Auburn. And when a receiver spends too much time quick catching throws, you do not always get a full picture of the route tree. Can he win in intermediate routes? Can he sell vertical and snap off comebacks? Can he separate on digs? Can he win against press? Can he, win contested catches? He's had some flashes of that when he was at Georgia Tech, but at Florida, he has to show it. It has to come to fruition for him. Why is he wide receiver 4? And it's just very simple, very simple. Cam Coleman has the size and wide receiver type profile. Nick Marsh has physical tools and production to set him ahead of just about anybody. And Jeremiah Smith is the closest thing to Megatron we've had. He is a man in his own universe. And then you have Singleton. Singleton has the elite speed that matters. He has production. He has durability. He's a special vertical guy. He has blocking effort for a small guy, which is incredible. but he is not higher because the breakout hasn't happened. The per catch production kind of cratered. The deep ball connection has not become what it should be, and his frame is slight. He still needs to. He still needs to see. We still need to see the complete receiver version of him. What I want to see from 2026 this year, Eric Singleton Jr. has to become the player the speed says he should be. The checklist is clear. Raise the yards per catch, hit more explosive plays, win vertically, show more complete route development, become a real focal point for Florida. Keep the blocking effort, protect the football, and prove that you can be more than just a weapon, because the NFL already knows you're fast. That's not the question. The question is, are you just fast or are you a fast receiver? Can you win on all three levels? Can you be trusted on third down? Can you create explosive plays without needing everything manufactured? That's what you got to show at Florida. I currently have him as an 8.94 out of 10, making him my wide receiver 4, 54 overall, going into this college football season. He's an elite speed receiver with vertical gravity, manufactured touch value, durability, and enough production across 3 seasons to keep him firmly on the NFL radar. All-American as a freshman at Georgia Tech. You showed with the 11 catches and 102 yards and a touchdown against Vanderbilt what you could be. But the concerns are real. 9.2 yards per catch. Deep ball connection has not consistently hit. And you've never had the breakout season. You got to have the breakout season this year. To stay this high, it has to happen. Now, that's me. That's what I think of him. What do you think about Eric Singleton Jr.? Can Florida finally unlock him as a deep threat? Can he be more than just a speed weapon? Where would you rank him in your wide receivers? Drop your thoughts in the comments down below. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. So we're going to keep putting in this work. Our goal is to have over 100 prospects done before college football kicks off, and we're on pace to do it. I'm Draft Yoda, Bill Workman, your favorite draft nerd's favorite draft nerd, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.